Hello out there, and today we are taking a first look at this just released Spyderco Delica 4 with the Wharncliffe style blade. Alright, and here's the box that it comes in, and you can see on the label it says Delica, flat for flat grind, WC for Wharncliffe, and BLK for the color black. So this knife, like I said, is a variant, so it is still a Delica 4, and you can see the definite resemblance when you put a regular Delica 4 right next to it. These knives are essentially identical with a blade shape difference, and that's really about it. So the focus of this video will really just be looking at the blade itself and trying to discover what, if any, kinds of differences there are between this knife and just the typical Delica. My guess is that you already know what a Delica is if you clicked on this video, so I really just want to take a look at the blade to give you an idea of what that's all about. So as we zoom in and get a close look, let me apologize for how dirty my hands are right now. I've been doing a lot of modification work, so they're just filthy, and I probably have the most cut up fingers on YouTube right now. So again, my apologies, but I think we can get past it. All right, so here's the blade. What you need to know, obviously, Seki City, Japan, like all the other Delicas, VG10 blade steel, full flat grind here, and a really nice, legitimate Wharncliffe style blade, guys. Completely, actually straight edged here. No kind of belly whatsoever, as expected, and a really nice spine that tapers down to a fine tip down at the bottom. Really nice and sharp. I personally just really enjoy the Wharncliffe style blade. I always have. One of my favorite EDCs when I was first getting into knives was a Cold Steel Tough Light, and I really liked that knife. I still have it. Just a big fan of the kind of work that you can get done and how easy it is to maintain this kind of blade shape, as long as you don't break the tip off. So I mean that's something you definitely need to be aware of and be careful of. So don't do any prying with this kind of knife. All right, but looking at it, as it tapers, you can see just how fine that tip is. Like I said before, really good looking. And then as we go back on the spine is where I noticed the first difference between this and the regular Delica. All right, so these knives, again, are pretty much identical even onto the first start of the blade until you really start to get the rise. And maybe even from here, if you have good eyes, you can see the difference in the jimping. But I'm going to bring the knives closer and let you really see how the jimping has been improved for this Wharny version. If you look at the Wharny on the bottom, the jimping is definitely going higher up the spine, up to the ramp, further than on the regular Delica right here. All right, and in addition to that, what you can't really see is that this jimping on the Wharny is actually a little bit more defined, and so it's a little more sharp, gives you more texture and better grip. So while people raved and were really happy about the ergonomics and the jimping on the regular Delica 4, I think it's even better on this knife, guys. I mean, just even better, just really catches the thumb, doesn't cut it up, doesn't hurt, but it just grabs it and gives you really wonderful purchase. All right, so while you could really choke up here for more detailed work, I mean, using this jimping is probably going to be your best way to go because it is really fantastic. All right, so that's one small difference that I noticed almost immediately taking it out of the box when I had these knives next to each other. Apart from that, though, as you're looking at the Wharny and moving to the back, everything else is, I mean, gosh, it's identical. 4-position pocket clip, hardware is pretty much the same. The lock is, of course, exactly the same. One thing I did notice is that the way the knife closes, I mean, it closes with a snap the way a lot of slip joints do. Just that early closure. Whereas my Delica 4 right here, a lot less aggressive. And that's definitely not a bad thing, just something I noticed. And now that I've got the knives closed, let's take a look at them next to each other. All right, and while I've got them here, I might as well note that the weight on these knives is extremely similar. Only about 1/10 of an ounce difference in the weight. And that's really just because of the actual amount of steel I think used on the blade. So let's just take a look at that real quick to be sure. 2.32 ounces on my scale for the Delica 4, and for the variant Wharny, 2.38. So both of these knives are just really, really light and yeah, identical as you would expect. All right, so really not much else is going to surprise you if you're familiar with the Delica here, guys. But there is one more thing I sort of want to talk about. And it's not something that confuses me, but it is sort of a curiosity. And I just sort of wonder what the real point of making this design is. And by that I mean, when you think about a Wharncliffe blade, and correct me if I'm wrong, there are plenty of people who know more about edge geometry and blade shape than I do. But I mean, my understanding is that this type of, flat grind, like razor blade style straight edge is really good for utility tasks and some pretty good hard use stuff, and really great for resharpening and maintenance. And while you do have a little bit of belly on this Delica 4, I mean, it's not a huge bellied knife, and all of the things that this Wharncliffe is going to be good at in terms of use, the Delica is already pretty good at. I mean, this knife resharpens really well. It's a great EDC knife. All of the slicing and cutting tasks that you're going to need to do with this, you're already able to do with the Delica 4 as it is. And so my curiosity is really in that, who is this knife for? Is this one that people who already have a Delica 4, like me, are just going to jump out and buy because we love this blade shape so much? I mean, that's the type of person I am. But my question to all of you is, are you getting this knife because you want to collect it? Or are you looking at this knife because you don't have a Delica, and now that this is going to be available, you're going to choose one or the other? Or, are you going to sell your old Delica and get this one, or are you just not going to get this one? Whatever your situation is, and if you do have a Delica, I would really love to hear from you, because, from a marketing standpoint, it's just a curiosity that you would release a different blade shape and make it that similar. And another thing that I was thinking about this release is the fact that it was done in January of the year, so early in the year, that I would not be surprised if in just a few months we didn't see this knife with the full Delica treatment and purple scales on it and blue and, all the different colors and different steels, and maybe just completely incorporate it into, hey, when you get a Delica, you have a choice of a couple different types. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what Spyderco's plan is. It seems like something that would make sense, but from the terms of just a guy who wants to use a knife, I don't see any real benefit to getting this instead of this, to be honest, and that's just me. So if you have a different opinion, I'd love to hear it. I just think it's going to come down to personal preference, and so if you already own Delica, why would you get the new one? And I ask that as a person who just got the new one. So again, I understand it's a bit of a strange question from the perspective that I'm taking, but any insight you might have would be appreciated. So thanks for your time. Any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, as always, guys, let me know in the comments down below. I'd always love to hear from you. I don't know if I'll be following up about this knife in the future unless there's some kind of groundbreaking thing that happens that separates it in any way, positive or negative, from the regular Delica 4. But yeah, if you want to see more of it, let me know, and I will talk with you soon. Thanks again.